in their respective industries and spaces. But Shark Tank really propelled them to, uh, I would say, it's different. I mean, pre-Shark Tank and post-Shark Tank, it takes you to the stratosphere and beyond. So that's essentially what we've done for our judges on the show, and that's something that we're also going to be doing across Southeast Asia. So we've had a number of really successful seasons on the show. In fact, the business model of the final pitch has won an award back in Manila as one of the innovative business models in the Philippines because of the way we work with our judges. So the judges in the show are essentially our co-producers. So they co-produce a show, and they allow for us to be able to collaborate with them to showcase different, industries as well. So depending on the industry of the judge, we onboard them and we get to work with them in very specific episodes where we showcase their industries in those episodes. So that's something that I'll talk about more later. So we are now expanding the final pitch across ASEAN. So apart from the Philippines, we are also involving Singapore, Indonesia, Thailand, Malaysia, and Vietnam. That's actually why we're here today, because we are in the process of narrowing down who the judges will be for the maiden season of the final pitch ASEAN. So we are going to be going on a roadshow for the next couple of months to these countries, and we will determine exactly who we will invite to be the judges on the show. So each judge, there will be one judge representing each of these countries, and that judge will essentially be the business ambassador of their country on the final pitch ASEAN. And the way it's going to work, similar to the format in the Philippines, there's going to be the initial pitches, there's going to be an elimination process, there's going to be the mentorship, and one thing that's very special is the country tours. So we will be going around to the region, going to the country tours in partnership with the judges on the show. So think if you are the Singapore judge, we will actually go to Singapore. In fact, most of the show is going to be filmed in Singapore, and we will showcase the ecosystem of that country specifically for the country episode of that judge. So the country tours are going to be very interesting because the tours will allow for us to be able to explore the local startup ecosystem of each country. So I know that this is the blockchain space, this whole conference is about that, but really the show is more than that. It's really showcasing the businesses, the climate, the business climate of each country, and also trying to aggregate all of the learnings that we will get from the season and really informing the world beyond Southeast Asia what this region is about. Because the long-term objective of the Final Pitch ASEAN is to be a very successful regional business reality show that will propel this format across Asia and across the world as well, because we are planning on licensing this across 2 different territories around the world as well. So for the Final Pitch ASEAN, we have partnered with AXN, so they will be our official cable partner, but we are going to be having local broadcast partners as well in these different countries. And there is a deal with a streaming platform, which I cannot yet reveal right now because of confidentiality reasons, but there is going to be a streaming partner who we will work with to bring this to OTT. And right now, I'd like to also share with you my book, The Art and Science of the Pitch. So this is a book that came out here first in Singapore last year, August. And it is a book that I wrote in partnership with thought leaders from around the world. So I interviewed investors, successful startups, thought leaders from Silicon Valley, from the US, from across Europe, around Asia, Southeast Asia in particular. And I distilled into this book the things that you would need to be able to pitch your idea, your business, your startup to people, to investors. And also, if you are looking to join a reality pitching show, such as The Final Pitch, this is the book that you should get to be able to bring your ideas across. So this is now a bestseller here in Singapore, in Kinokuniya, and it is also available around the world via Amazon. So you can scan this QR code if you want to get a copy of that. I highly encourage you because, like I said earlier, if you want to pitch your blockchain business, startup to the world, I think one of the best ways to do that is to be able to be in touch with the reasons why you're doing it. I think if you are intimately involved in this space and are really, I would say, genuinely interested in improving whatever problems you face as you are building your product, I think by going into the chapter specifically on the why, which I discussed on how to pitch, I think it will allow you to go beyond, preaching to the choir, which is what we're doing here today, right? Today it's all about meeting people who share the same sentiments in the blockchain space, but really, above and beyond that, the challenge is mass adoption and education. And I feel that the way we've been doing the show and the way I wrote the book is something that we all should be intimately aware of. Why are we doing this? Because when technology changes, when we face hurdles that inevitably we will encounter, at the end of the day, it's all about your why. So I highly encourage you to get a copy of the book. And one of the things that I discussed also in the book is this term that I coined. It's called the Showtime effect. So I will let you in on a secret as a producer of the Final Pitch TV show. So one of the best ways to pitch, or I guess to let people know about your startup or your business, is a reality TV show format. So I may be biased, but coming out on shows such as Shark Tank, The Final Pitch, is one of the best ways that you can get the world to discover who you are, what you do, for obvious reasons, right? But what I'd like to share also with you is the Showtime effect. This is the long tail effect of coming out on a business reality show. So a lot of people, when they see a show like us or like Shark Tank, they see, okay, so I pitch on the show, I get my 15 minutes of fame, but what happens after that? So, and sometimes the stumbling block there is that people never even attempt to do that for fear of failure or looking stupid or maybe not landing a deal. But what I can share with you today is that I would say maybe, and this is realistically speaking, maybe 10% of the startups who pitch on the show regret the experience for different reasons, which I won't get into, but a lot of them really credit a business reality show for catapulting their businesses to the next level. So as I said earlier, you may not get an investment, but the long tail effect of you coming out on the platform, the Showtime effect of the judges listening to you, giving their feedback, and you getting the reach beyond the show is something that has been very effective. And in fact, a lot of our startups credit their participation on the show for their success that they now enjoy as previous contestants on the show. So that's one little bit of trivia I'd like to share with you. And lastly, there was this event that happened in the Philippines last year in November. It was the Philippine Blockchain Week. And again, I may be biased, but when I attended that event in Manila, we had over 2,500 people come in from across the world. A lot of the people I interviewed, I spoke with, said that it was the best blockchain event in the world they have attended. So I will show to you a short clip of the first day of Philippine Blockchain Week. And this is an edited video, so it may look flashy, it may look like, those typical like edited just to make it look exciting. But I am telling you, I was there. It happened for an entire week, 5 days, and the energy was palpable. The conversations were just engaging, and everyone was there from investors, stakeholders, influencers from around the world. I will leave you with this just to give you a sneak peek of what happened last year in Philippine Blockchain Week, because I would like to invite everyone to join us in Manila on September 18 to 22. You just can't see it here. From September 18 to 22 next year. You can Google it. This is an open invitation. I'm not one of the organizers, but we are promoting Philippine Blockchain Week to the world. So here's a short clip from just the first day of Philippine Blockchain Week last year.
Went up downtown. Went up downtown. Went up downtown. I want to save my soul.
That looks exciting, right? That was Philippine Blockchain Week last year. I'd like to call up on stage to join me our COO, Monica, and also our Director for Impact and Growth, Nina. So we will be here in the event up till tomorrow. So if you would like to work with us, if you would like to partner with us for the final pitch, ASEAN, and also as an open invitation for you to join us in Philippine Blockchain Week next year, we would like to extend that invitation to everyone. So just a few words from our lovely colleagues over here to invite them as well. So Monica.
Hello, good morning everybody. I'm Monica, and I would like to invite you to speak to us and see how we can collaborate and work together through our TV show, The Final Pitch Philippines and The Final Pitch ASEAN. Thank you. Nines?
Yeah, we're looking forward to having conversations, both here outside and in the surrounding areas at Marina Bay Sands. So just look for Monica Stripes and my patrons over here, and we look forward to conversing with you about bringing your blockchain business to Southeast Asia and even the world.
Thank you very much. Maraming salamat, Singapore. Thank you.
There you have it once again, ladies and gentlemen. That was John Aguilar with the title Pitching Blockchain to Southeast Asia and the World. Okay, next we'd like to welcome our next speaker. He's called Leonard Tai, VP of Strategy and Operations, Community Engagement and Partnership. Let's give a big round of applause and welcome Leonard Tai with the title Hard Truths That Will Keep the Web3 Industry Going. A round of applause once again, ladies and gentlemen.
Good morning, everyone. So I'm just going to stand here so I don't block the screen. So my colleagues, government officials, learned friends from the legal industry, good morning. Hope all of you have had a very good New Year. Lunar New Year, actually, for those of you who celebrate it. It's been a very long time since I've publicly spoken, so if I trip over my words, don't laugh at me. Let me begin by welcoming all of you from all over the world likes Web3, I like to liken Singapore to a giant startup, and it warms my heart to be back home again. To briefly introduce myself, I currently work with ex-Hollywood and Marvel professionals in an entertainment house called Galactic Entertainment. We specialize in innovative, immersive, and disruptive multimedia experiences. At GE, I lead the strategy, operations, partnerships, and community engagement verticals. That said, it was a very conscious and deliberate choice of mine to speak it to a very diverse crowd here, because I intend to discuss more general issues that are ubiquitous across the entire industry, rather than my capacity as a member of any of the teams that I work with. In fact, when it comes to many of the more specific topics, I think my colleagues and the rest of the people here in the room are far more qualified than I to be speaking on these topics. So I would defer instead to their wisdom. In this short conversation that I hope to have with all of you, I hope to persuade all of you to a few perspectives and first principles on what we can collectively adopt to help each other individually succeed in this relatively new but extremely promising industry. There's an extremely high concentration of Web3 companies in Singapore. This is a country run by a very pragmatic government that looks to seize opportunities while ensuring that the interests of our people are well guarded. In fact, if you look at the title of my presentation, I actually titled it after a book written by our minister mentor, Lee Kuan Yew, the late Lee Kuan Yew. I admire his spirit when he was leading the country, and I think that he led the country against the odds and grew it to what it is today, and I hope that we can model the industry after what he did. Amongst all the controversies that it has caused, it is less debated that Web3 and blockchain technology has demonstrated, both in concept and in practice, the grave potential to actually succeed. So let me go to my first slide. With all new technologies, there's always challenges to kind of overcome. Indeed, the magnitude of regulatory efforts targeted at the digital asset industry reflects the flattering recognition that Web3 is inevitable. This is an opportunity for us to legitimize the work we do. It's definitely worth mentioning that this is not a novel phenomenon. Regulations are often reactive and thus front-run by technology. Indeed, it was only after a decade after the rise of social media that privacy and data laws became prolific, as prompted by the Cambridge Analytica scandal. We must see this as an opportunity to take a united stance and disassociate from bad actors and assist efforts to punish them. Just as traditional industries are expected to clean up their own houses after major scandals, it is expected that the same moral standards apply uniform to ours. Therefore, the voices of objection and dissent should come from within Web3 in order to show traditional users that this is not what we stand for, and our resolve to rebuild trust with them. The tools that we have built have undeniably been used to ill ends, and it's up to us to build the technology requisite to identify bad behavior and prevent it. We should see this as part of the iterative innovation cycle and an opportunity to further develop our toolbox. It is our ethical obligation to prevent criminals from using the tools to destructive purposes. With great power comes great responsibility. Information flows at a great velocity within Web3, and considering how often the benefits of Web3 are reiterated is less often emphasized in order for them to be realized. We must first seek to do no harm. The ongoing crackdown by law enforcement is a reaction by the amount of damage bad actors within the industry have caused to the people. Like any piece of tool, blockchain technology is prone to misuse by bad actors. Anyone adventurous enough to venture into the deep web will note that almost all illegal transactions, including the facilitation of illegal drugs, firearms, and laundering of stolen money, have been invariably facilitated by cryptocurrency. They were once facilitated using cash. Amongst all the wondrous benefits propounded by Web3 proponents, I believe that this is not one of those things which we stand for. Even in the visible web, scams, rug pulls, and Ponzi schemes have become prolific enough to cast the industry into a deep and negative publicity cycle. The contempt and hatred by the general public towards us as an industry upon seeing the wealth and the luxury generated by their hard-earned money has been a major stumbling block to our success. As a former pupil of the law disillusioned enough to leave it behind, I will be the last to support the blind and blunt force of it, and the first to point out its tendency to overreach and overregulate when left to its own devices. Recognizing the reality that technology can never outrun regulation and seeking cooperation versus conflict is key to ensuring that we do not enter a long and extremely long, costly period of uncertainty. Unlike big tech with deep pockets, this is not something many Web3 companies can endure, especially at a time where capital efficiency has become key to the survival of companies across all scales. Therefore, there's a corresponding duty on governments to generalize to benefit more, to target bad actors and bad code, and not strike indiscriminately at industry players. The strongest argument in favor of regulation is that it necessarily reflects the legal recognition of the existence of Web3, not only its responsibilities, but also its corresponding rights. A dear friend of mine, the then director of Binance X in Singapore many years ago, told me that as someone who can write code and contracts, my skill set was a natural fit for the nascent blockchain industry. Now is the opportunity for us to codify smart contracts within the law and make the promise of true ownership an enforceable one. Indeed, a key tenet of Web3 is true ownership. And if these rights are not enforceable, there cannot be true ownership. So right now I'm going to very rudely paste a few quotes on the screen, which basically exemplifies what I just said. The first one shows that inappropriate regulatory responses would likely stifle innovation. The second one which shows that the law is like technology is also a tool, and if not used properly, it can be used to the benefit of criminals rather than to our benefit. The third one basically says that, like the GDPR, like in Web 2, the GDPR has many unintended consequences. And if we enter a regulatory cycle as long as Web 2, 10 years down the line right now, where the GDPR and privacy laws are not fully fleshed out yet, we probably will not survive the winter. So what can we change about the inevitable? I feel that together with the widespread adoption of blockchain technology amongst private institutions, the top-down effect of the law lawmaking plays towards our advantage. Therefore, it is critical that we guard against tech oligarchy and be active participants in this process rather than passive observers. Beyond the duty to safeguard the public interest, governments are obliged to consult widely and design regulations around a solid set of first principles forged in conjunction with an entire spectrum of stakeholders. The silver lining here is that as countries race to become the blockchain hubs of the world, they have a vested interest to facilitate innovation in the industry and not stifle it. In order to achieve these ambitions, it is imperative that Web3 companies are not made to spend excessive amounts of time and money on compliance. Governments need to ensure that regulations are clear, well publicized, and easily understood. Legal professionals should be consistently applying them when giving legal opinions. To be more specific, companies should not be receiving legal opinions from multiple law firms as a result of diametrically opposite regulatory clarity. Spending money on being told not to push a key feature just to err on the side of caution, or worse still, having to roll it back, is incredibly wasteful and frustrating for all parties involved. Moving beyond regulation, let me just point out that perception is equal to reality. So the words at the bottom are obscured, but I think that education and branding will be the next frontier of Web3. If even governments think that, start to equate crypto with Web3 and with blockchain technology, I think we have a problem here, because they are right now seeing that blockchain technology is basically something which is purely speculative. On the right, I have a post on Reddit. This is one of the most upvoted posts on Reddit, on the programming subreddit. Even your programmers, people who are writing your code, see blockchain technology as being equivalent to crypto and Web3. And I think this is a problem. I think we have a branding problem. So returning to the point, so I pause here just to note that regardless of what approach we take next, it's imperative for two things to happen before mass adoption can occur. Firstly, companies should avoid branding themselves in a manner that is driving our negative publicity cycle. Positioning your products that come across as de facto securities or shitcoins will attract nobody but law enforcement. Secondly, the app and infrastructure layers of our products need to be abstracted away so that our users can actually understand what our apps are doing. Now, moving beyond regulation for a second, I've been laser focused on fine-tuning my strategy towards partnerships, community engagement, and product development in the context of Web3's larger innovation cycle. As we take a more defensive posture towards runway preservation, it is necessary to reduce the time to achieving product market fit and profitability. It's uncontroversial here that product development should be anchored to a company's North Star and iterated based on a two-way feedback loop with its target market. Yet the fundamental issue with Web3 right now is that the user demographic is based mainly off a speculative crowd. This is evinced by the flight of users when market downturns strike at the profit margins from flipping and earning tokens. The rise and fall of the marketing playbook based primarily off animal spirits and the impression of gold rush. Anecdotally, as someone who has entered the industry through speculative high-frequency trading during the DeFi boom, I see the exact same crowd across all subsections of the industry. Protocols, tooling, gaming, DeFi, CeFi, and DAOs. From my perspective, the user segmentation is a very illusory one. What's useful in giving off the mirage of high adoption rates and a large user base, as well as for short-term revenue and initial capital injection, this user base is fundamentally value extractive. If a company acquires users by giving them money, this calls the very fundamental question, where is the money coming from? In an age where fundraising from both retail and institutionals become increasingly difficult, in part because they have come to realize the exact same conundrum, this is an unsustainable business model and resembles almost the Ponzi schemes of the old. Adopting a marketing strategy targeting users who have no intention of paying for your actual product is a self-reinforcing negative cycle, especially during Web3. As we know, community building is a key tenet of Web3 and serves the additional utility of being part of a company's brand, as well as a platform for direct feedback to the product team. This makes the DNA of our communities incredibly important. If their motivations are purely for profit, their commentary will not only threaten to steer the direction of the company and its products in the direction that do not serve the pain points of paying users, especially if they control a large proportion of governance, but also damage its brand when they are unable to make returns on their perceived investments. Birds of the same feather flock together, and community members tend to attract users with the same motivations. In this cycle, companies are essentially split into two camps. The first camp, typically teams which are made up of experienced traditional executives focused on getting traditional users to buy into Web3. The second camp are Web3 natives who are clinging onto their original communities, biding their time until the next bull run, which we may well be already seeing the start of. Both approaches are neither wrong nor ideal. The unsustainability or volatility of the latter approach I will not belabor further. The former, whose success depends largely on the existing critical mass of users, exemplified by Reddit and Starbucks, is not realistic for all companies. Indeed, it will take time for the right infrastructure to be built and trust to be reforged with traditional users before tangible results can be seen. Not all companies have the luxury of waiting this period out. So returning to the point on constructing a paying customer base, how do we bridge the time gap between now and when mass adoption occurs? The assumption here to be challenged is one, whether users who are currently extractive will remain extractive forever. And two, whether users who are extractive can also be paying users. Now we turn to look at the demographic of the current crypto user base. Across the Americas, across Europe, and across Asia. If we look at countries like East Asia, for example, in Japan, South Korea, and Taiwan, where users are very, very not crypto averse, very, very crypto happy, people who are very, very happy to be buying crypto and be adoptive of new technology, and also their entertainment hubs, people who are very, very keen on buying actual products, social media, participating in a lot of online digital economies, buying digital collectibles, you can see that there's a very, very strong intersection between the extractive user base and paying users. Therefore, targeting the right demographic in this current cycle, I feel is really important. And returning back to the first question, I feel that the other very, very important pain point would be converting the current investors or extractive users into actual users. I believe that people who are retail investors can also be actual users of the product. For example, someone who buys an Apple stock, somebody who buys a Microsoft stock can also be a user of the product. The question is actually how to be converting them into these actual users. So I would like to right now go on to the very product end of things. There are two theories which currently exist within the industry, which is the FAT protocol theory which basically means that most of the value is right now is being accrued at the protocol level. So if you look at the market cap of Ethereum and all the rest of the layer 1 and layer 2 blockchains, you realize that most of the transaction volume occurs within the chains itself. Whereas on the app layer, which are the applications built on these blockchains, the amount of transactions taking place on these applications are relatively less. I hope that in the next cycle we will drive adoption enough such that we will be able to backward integrate from the app layer to the infrastructure layer, just as Web2 has done. Now I want to quote the Microsoft CEO, who says that Web3 needs a ChatGPT moment, and I think that he's pretty much right. We really need a moment whereby we need actual users who would actually use the product for Web3 to go to reach a legitimate stage of adoption. Now let me just finish off by saying that human beings are hardwired to either align with each other or defend ourselves against each other. Success or failure, whether personal, professional, or on our corporate level, depends entirely on who we rally ourselves with and who we defend ourselves against. I hope the choices we make as an industry will lead to us collaborating with regulators, legitimate industry players, and paying customers, and against the bad actors within the industry. And again, a quote by the ChatGPT founder, right? There are two kinds of people in the world: the people who build the future and people who constantly write posts saying that it will fail. The people who have said that there is nothing new left to do in the world have been wrong every single time. Don't let the lack of imagination hold you back. Thank you.
Thank you very much once again, Leonard Thayer, with the title Hard Truths That Will Keep the Web3 Industry Going. Okay, next we have a panel discussion with the title Cyber Security and Custody of Funds. So let's welcome our moderator, Jane Lowe, Director of Finbox. Round of applause, everyone. And next, let's welcome our panelists, Tristan Lee, Head of Southeast Asia at Zokyo. Maureen Zelek, Consensus Director at DeFi and Wallets. Lily Zhu, COO at Chobo. Chen Zuling, CEO and founder at RockX.
Testing, testing. All right, reshuffling this musical chair. Okay, very good.
All right, take it away.
Testing, testing. Right. Okay, right. So thank you to the audience for sparing time, your time today to hear what our esteemed panelists is going to share with us as the latest in cybersecurity and the custody of funds. Right. So to my left we have Tristan Lee, who is the Zokyo Head of Southeast Asia. We have also next to him Maureen Zelek, who is a Consensus Director, and Lily King, right, who is the Kobo COO, and also Zhu Ling, who is the founder and CEO of RockX. And I'm Jane Lowe, and I'm a podcast host of My Security Media and also Miss Cyber Penny. So to kick off, before we start, I just wanted to say, you know, we have a very simple structure for the panel discussion today. So we're going to start with setting the context in terms of what we mean by custody of funds in blockchain. And then we talk about some cybersecurity incidents. And then we follow up by some of the lessons that we can learn from some of these incidents. And then, you know, what are the tips of the users and the developers, and what are the solutions?